Got the Cougie Bear cough.
It's just catching, company catching cough. James Helder, iFall TV, in association with MTK Global. With me, I've got Eddie Hearn. We're made in Italy today in the King's Road in central London.
Very posh.
Very posh indeed. Nice roof terrace garden. Got to say,
too much pizza.
A lot of pizza, a lot of meatballs.
Bright out here, but and me and you rocking the tassels.
I've got to say, tassel brothers.
Tassel loafers.
Appreciate it. Let's talk a little bit about St George Groves. It's just been announced that he'll face Chudinov for the WBA Super title on the undercard of KELL BROOK versus ERROL Spence at Bramall Lane. Talk to me firstly about this.
I think it's another great fight on a great night of boxing. I think Brook against Spence for me is one of the fights of the year, and I think the styles in the Chudinov Groves fight will gel into a great fight. Definitely Georgie's best chance to win a world title. I still think it's a 50-50 fight. I think he's earned the right to get back in this position. Of course, he had the 2 fights with George Groves. He lost a thin one to Badu Jack in Vegas. Come back, beat Martin Murray, had a couple of other fights, and I think he's earned his shot now. And I think May 27th could be the night for George Groves.
You mentioned the shots he's had. This is his 4th chance at winning a world title shot. He's very vastly experienced for the age that he is. Do you see this as as I said, his biggest opportunity thus far?
Yeah, definitely the biggest. Is it his last? I don't know. 4 shots at a world title. It's good going. And I think in his head he'll probably put everything into this shot being my last opportunity to win a world title. Whether another opportunity comes, this is the one for me that he has to grab, and I hope he does. It's quite ironic when you spend time around people that have been enemies in the past, and obviously in the build-up to the Groves Froch fight, I don't think we were exactly each other's cup of tea. But then since that fight, he's boxed pretty much every fight on our shows and with Sky. And even Shane McGuigan, I had a pleasant chat with him today, and it's funny how things happen in boxing,
Full cycle. Full circle.
It does. And I hope they win, on May the 27th. But it's funny that you can go through those periods and not have any animosity to people. I mean, maybe they have to me, but sort of talking to Shane McGuigan, thinking, you know what, I might give Barry McGuigan a ring, and help Carl Frampton out and make him a few quid. But no, I think he deserves. I think he deserves a world title. Doesn't mean he's going to get it. It's going to be a tough fight, but you know what Chudinov's like. He just comes forward all night, throwing big bombs. Groves can really punch. I actually think that Chudinov has got a great style to beat Groves, but I also think Chudinov's got a great style for Groves as well. If you could make any sense of that at all, congratulations. But I hope you know what I mean.
We've also seen today that KELL BROOK's had his IBF check weight. ERROL Spence check weighing as well.
10 stone 13 with his clothes on.
Wow.
Impressed and working really hard. The one concern going into this fight, I know he's going to make the weight. It's just how he makes it. But to see him, call it 10 stone 12 and a half if you like, to see him, 5 pounds out, 5.5 pounds out with 3 weeks to go. I can't remember the last time he was that weight going into a fight at welterweight. So he's on it. And he knows this is a crunch fight in his career. Brook Spence is an absolutely brilliant fight. Brilliant fight. And it's massive for KELL BROOK because victory takes him into the super fights. Pacquiao, Thurman.
When you say Pacquiao, you've got to say it in Bob Aaron's voice. That's part of the rule.
Well, if he can beat ERROL Spence on May the 27th, he's got Pacquiao, he's got Mayweather, he's got Thurman. Yeah, so all those sort of guys. But it's a really tough fight. I'm looking forward to seeing how good ERROL Spence is.
According to the Americans, he is actually the truth.
Yeah.
A lot of the Americans we speak to about the fight are saying that he'll be too big for KELL BROOK.
He definitely won't be too big for him. But he's very good. He's very good, but I think KELL BROOK's going to knock him out.
What would you say ERROL Spence's best win has been so far, in your opinion? Would that be Algeria?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't think you can take too much from the Bundu win. Bundu's a good fighter, but he was cooked, done out there. Yeah, Algeria, I guess. So he hasn't mixed anywhere near KELL BROOK's level, but it doesn't mean he can't. I do rate him. I think he was a good amateur, and I think he's an exceptional fighter. I just think he's going to get knocked out by Kell Brook. I think Kell's going to be too strong for him. And I think with 27,000 people at Bramall Lane, shit's going to get real for the truth.
How has Bramall Lane been selling so far?
Good. We've got about 2,000 tickets left. Normally you'd sell 1,500 tickets on fight week. We've got 3 weeks to go. We just officially announced George Groves against Chudinov, so I expect those tickets to go. I think the atmosphere will be unbelievable. Tough to compare to Wembley, but you know, we can't have that every week. So 27,000 at Bramall Lane cheering a Sheffield boy on should be special.
We've also got Dave Allen on the undercard, who's gone from selling £104 worth of tickets as a house fighter to now doing over excess of £20,000.
I know, it's fantastic. Incredible. You know. And I said to Dave the other day, I texted him and said, mate, keep selling the tickets. Because he sold, like, I don't know, 300 or 400 tickets. Yeah, I've sold all my allocation. I go, order some more then. Do you know what I mean? Because to have that support is great. And what you need is, you need people in the stadium with their heart on their sleeve who actually want the White Rhino to win. It's a massive opportunity to win the Commonwealth title for Dave Allen. And it's a really tough fight against Leroy Thomas. You know, he was over sparring Josh for about 4 or 5 weeks for a Charles Martin fight. He can fight, this kid. You know, he's a big step up for Dave outside of the Dillian White and Ortiz fight. So, you know, the level he's been operating up the last couple, this is a whole nother level. But to see him win the Commonwealth title at Bramall Lane would be amazing. And you know, that's what it's all about, creating special moments. You know, when you're old and done, you're not going to look back and worry about balance sheets and profit and loss accounts. You're going to remember the good times.
You're going to see a picture of you and the Rhino holding on to belt.
Yeah, a Commonwealth title to start with. But I think that, you know, things that make you feel good, or things that can help better other people's lives, provide opportunities. I don't know. Just there's something about that, isn't it? It's just to see Dave Allen win the Commonwealth title would make me, you know, would make me proud. And you know, whether that's selfish or not, I don't give a fuck, because I want to feel good.
Speaking of fighters that we haven't seen, what's happened to Ortiz since he's fought Dave Allen? He's sort of done him more harm than good. Because before that fight, everyone was talking about him as this ferocious sort of.
Yeah, but I had two fights with Luis Ortiz, and then obviously he didn't perform in them at all. The Malik Scott fight was a disaster. The Dave Allen fight was okay. And then I'll be honest, I found it hard to carve out the right fight. You know, he's in a position where he's sort of more or less mandatory for the WBA. He's highly ranked in all the governing bodies, so he doesn't really want to take a risky fight, and I don't really want to give him a fight that no one's interested in. So I couldn't really carve out an opportunity for them. You know, they came on to me, said they got an opportunity to sign Al Heyman. Go for it. You know, they put him on a card, he pulled out. Eventually, he'll be the mandatory to Joshua.
How old do you think he actually is? That's what I meant to ask you.
What is he officially? Or like, I think he's 33?
He's my age officially. So
how old do you think he is?
He's got to be touching 40.
We know that's what. But that's what
he's allegedly, by the way. He's got to be allegedly touching 40.
He's a good fighter. I like Luis Ortiz. I like his team. It's very difficult when you've got a fight that doesn't speak English. You know, you're trying to sell him to the media, and we had a couple of pops with him. He underperformed, and he knows that. But he's a very good fighter. But he just doesn't have the value to be in the big fights. Doesn't mean he can't win those fights. And listen, when he carves out a mandatory position, some point you're going to have to fight him, whether there's money in the fight or not, or drop the belt. Josh doesn't have a problem fighting Luis Ortiz. There's just no money in it at the moment.
I want to talk a little bit about, we've seen some pictures of Anthony Joshua gone immediately back to the gym apparently. He's not going to have much time out without sort of staying focused, staying in the camp. What's happening with Anthony thus far?
I was with him yesterday at Finchley. He was actually just doing an Under Armour shoot yesterday. He's not training. Just Anthony's obsessed with improving. So he's more about sitting down with his coaches, his nutritional guys. I think the feeling is he came in a bit heavy in that fight, or he came back to camp too heavy to start with. Like I said, he's obsessed with improving, so he wants meetings with all those guys, wants to map out the future. He's got a little bit of a niggle in his shoulder, which is being assessed at the moment, but I don't think you're going to see him back in the ring till probably October, November. His life's changed incredibly over the last week, you know. Went for a coffee yesterday, come out of the coffee bar, there's 6 paps in his face, taking pictures. You know, was at the Finchley ABC, there was 10 photographers outside, probably 100 members of the public waiting for him. You know, his life's changed, and unfortunately for him, there's nothing more than he wants is to go back to his flat in North London and go and chill out with his mum and his mates, but he can't. You know, literally they're going to be camped outside his flat. So his life's changed, but look, he's not complaining, he's changed for the better. You know, the opportunities that he's carved out for himself are incredible. This young man, you know, from Watford that was going down the wrong path in life, found boxing, and it gave him the discipline and the respect and the structure in his life that he needed, and he followed that path, and look where it took him. And I hope that the government and local councils can understand the role that boxing can play in the community. It's not a case of all these young kids can be like Anthony Joshua, it's just that what the sport can give them, and the structure it can give them in their life, the discipline it can give them. And I truly believe, you know, James, how many fighters you spoke to, their backstories are incredible. Whether it's O'Hara, Davis, Lawrence, Josh, they've all fighters have got stories. Yeah, all fighters have got stories. Ask them what they'd be doing without boxing. You know, and I really feel like if the government could understand what role boxing could play in the communities, they could increase their funding.
Well, it's funny you should mention that, because we saw Mayor Sadiq Khan, he done an IFL TV interview on Saturday at Wembley. He's such a massive supporter of boxing, obviously with his brother Sid Khan and the Ellsfield connection, the Ellsfield gym. It's fantastic to see that some members of Parliament are interested in the sport and funding and helping it at grassroots.
It's probably not a conversation and debate for now, but Sadiq Khan was pivotal in us getting the 90,000 at Wembley. He loves his boxing. I just feel like, you know, you've got all these clubs out there, they're all self-funded, they're all funded by people and volunteers giving their own time. But if the government actually looked at boxing and what it can do in the community, you know, and I think someone like Anthony Joshua can drive this. You know, he's the perfect example of what boxing can do for you. Watch the Lucozade advert, do you know what I mean?
It's great.
Yeah, but that's the truth. You know, ask where Anthony would be. As Anthony said when he sat in his coach's car, I was fucked before boxing, or without boxing. You know, and that's the truth. Look at the opportunities boxing gave him. But I'm not saying that, you know, oh, young kid, you're running the streets, you're in a gang, you can become a world champion. I'm just saying that boxing can give you the discipline and the structure in your life to go and achieve something else. You know, but these people, Josh, Lawrence Coley, O'Hara, Davis, I'm going to try and get them out speaking to kids to try and inspire them to do that, because, you know, people sometimes come on to me saying, oh, can you come and give a chat to these kids in Stonebridge Estate in a detention centre? I'm like, how can I tell them a story? Do you know what I mean? You know, I had a real problem once. I didn't, you know, Dad was going to buy me a BMW. Do you know what I mean? There was some sport rich kid going, yeah, exactly. And I had the right hump. But one night I came home from school and there was no caviar. So they're going to look at me and think, look at this fat tosser. So, but people like Lawrence, people like O'Hara, people like AJ, they can relate to them. They can inspire them to change their lives, because they change their lives. Do you know what I mean? So again, not to go too deep on it in this one, but whether we can change that, whether AJ can change that, who knows?
Any news on what will happen with AJ potentially Vladimir Klitschko too? Has Berndt and Klitschko said anything? Have they been? Has there been any reaction or talk of the rematch? I
talked to Berndt this morning. They're very experienced. You know, they know that a decision like this can't be made a couple of days after a fight. My initial reaction was they'll almost certainly take the rematch. I spoke to Berndt and he says that Vladimir's going to have a long, hard thing. And I said, what do you think, Berndt? And he didn't really commit either way. Part of me thinks that Vlad will look at the fight and think, maybe I could have had him in the 5th or 6th round. And then maybe part of me thinks that Vlad might have been searching for that credit and adulation for a long time, and now he's finally got it, even in defeat. So is it time to walk away? I'd like to do the rematch. I think it's another great fight. But I
bet you would. I think like 95,000 at Wimbledon.
No, about 150. But I think 2 or 3 weeks we'll know. We've got the Pulev situation as well. You know, boxing's a strange sport. The more successful you are and the more belts you accumulate, the more problems you have. You know? So now, since Monday or Sunday, I've been working on all these WBA, IBF, Pulev, you know, Klitschko.
The furious one ended your mentality and thought process.
No, I really like Tyson Fury. Despite the stick he gives me on Twitter, I really like Tyson Fury. Every time I've spoke to him in person, we've got on. He's a funny bastard. Yeah, he's a little bit crazy, but we like that. And there's no one that wants that fight more than me and Anthony Joshua, you know? So, but he's got a lot to overcome. Physically, he's got to go before the Bulls, he's got to go before, I think, UCAD and VADA.
His hearing's next week,
yeah.
Isn't it?
But again, like, I expect the Board to either fine him heavily, suspend, I don't know. But then
if you're sick, surely he should be supported rather than...
I'm sure they'll be supportive, but he broke the rules, James. You know, it's not... So, it's not a case of... You know, they've got a code. It doesn't matter whether it's Tyson Fury, it doesn't matter whether it's Anthony Joshua. You break the rules, you've got to face the consequences. So, but obviously physically he's got a long way to go, but he's training and it's great to see him training. He's a very good fighter, you know, and he's a character. Sports needs characters. Joshua Fury is huge, and I think huge. And realistically, this time next year, April, same venue, I really feel like that fight can happen. And
I think it could be the fight to break all records, that fight.
Yeah, well, the last fight broke all records. So, but I certainly think the Fury fight is bigger in Britain, but it may not be bigger worldwide, because you can't underestimate the value of Vladimir Klitschko from a worldwide perspective with broadcasters and with fans. Don't forget, he's been doing this for 10 years, you know. Every broadcaster knows who Klitschko is, and that's why it did some huge numbers around the world. But you know, we've got an 8 to 10 year plan with Anthony Joshua, so we need all comers. It's not a case of like we want 2 or 3 fights and then that's it. We got to beat everybody.
Do you think the Dillian White fight rematch with
1 second.
boxes?
Alex, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. Cheers, mate.
What telephone voice was that?
What?
The most feminist voice I've ever seen.
Hi there. When I say to Anthony Joshua sometimes, what fight do you want? He goes, Dillian White.
Really?
Yeah, he really wants that rematch. You know, he really enjoyed that fight. He
well,
really,
the build up
all
as
of
well,
it,
like,
all of it. I want to get, you know, if Dillian can beat Marius Wack, I want to get him the Joseph Parker fight, and then I believe he can beat Joseph Parker. And if Dillian can get the WBO world title, a unification between AJ and Dillian could be huge as well. But you know what I'm saying, James? We're not looking at 2 guys. We're looking at 8 guys for AJ. That's like mapping out the next 4 years. Tyson Fury, Vladimir Klitschko, Joseph Parker, Luis Ortiz, Dillian White. You know?
I'm sure you wouldn't have to ask Dillian twice.
No, I was with him yesterday, but they both fancy that fight. I think, but the plan with Dillian is to get him a world title. Other than Anthony Joshua, if he has to be Anthony Joshua, he gets a shot against, fine. But really, we want to go and win another belt. I'd love to see Dillian v Wilder. I'd love to see Dillian v Parker, and that's what we'll be trying to push for. If he can beat Marius Wack.
Is it dependent on how he looks and the job he does on Marius Wack?
Obviously, the better he looks and the better job he does, the more value he has. So, yeah, it's important to look good. It's always important to look good.
Any sort of
fighters are always under pressure. They've got to win, but they've got to look good and they've got to entertain. Sometimes I look at it differently to how a coach might look at it. I look at it from a TV perspective and a value perspective, and you know, sometimes you can win a fight without looking good, but actually your value decreases.
Right, so any news on the undercard for Dillian White, Marius Wack, or anything? Any information?
Buglioni against Summers. We've got Isaac Chamberlain. We've got Lawrence Okoli. We've got Ted Cheeseman. We've got Reece Bellotti coming up in a title fight. Jake Ball. Might have another debut taking place there as well. So just finalising all that now. To be honest, it's been quite difficult because coming out of the AJ fight, like obviously a week, 2 weeks before the AJ fight, just crazy. Fight week, mental, but because of the success of the fight, it's sort of taken up all the column inches. So really, only now we're getting back to normal. We've got this, we have Belfast on Wednesday, obviously we've got the big Birmingham show next week. So
defending his
yeah,
world title.
Sam Megington for the European title, Gamal Fine, a great fight with Sean Davis, Frankie Gavin, Josh Kelly back on the bill. So, but that fight has taken so much attention away from everything that it's been difficult, and I really feel like last Saturday changed a lot of things, and I think one of the things it changed is people want big fights now, people want big events, and it's kind of like the medium events people aren't really as interested in. It's a bit like, I don't know, it's a bit like going to a restaurant, isn't it? You go to a restaurant that's the absolute dog's bollocks. You want to eat in that restaurant every time. You don't want to go up the high street for a Dixie fried chicken.
We
You know
like
what I mean?
Dixie Fried Chicken, by the way.
We
if you're
do,
watching.
you know, but it's, you know what I'm saying. So I'm re-looking at our strategy for the new season, and I think, you know, we need those smaller shows. We need those the beating heart in those small hall arenas and bringing the kids through. But we also need to think about, do we reduce a couple of Saturday night fight nights and just stick all the money into making mega nights and run some more next gens? I don't know. Just, I'm having a think at the moment, because I feel like everybody wants bigger. Maybe that's just something, maybe that's just life. Everyone wants bigger and better. You know?
Yeah. All right, well, on that note, we've got covered quite a lot of stuff already. I do appreciate it.
No worries.
No doubt there'll be some stuff coming up next week.
Birmingham, get yourself there.
Birmingham for next week.
Yeah.
A little bit of hype on Birmingham before we go. Tell us why we should buy a ticket for that.
KELL fights in a great fight against Maranaka. First defence of his world title, the first Birmingham fighter ever to win a world championship. It's his homecoming fight. You've got Sam Eggington against Serafino Rodriguez, who's a European champion. Very tough fight. Rodriguez has been sparring with KELL BROOK. KELL tells me that's going to be an absolute war. Look at what happened to Sam Eggington. He lost to Bradley Ski. He had a warm-up fight. He boxed Frankie Gavin in a fight of the year, beat him. Then he boxed Paulie Malignaggi at the O2, chief support to Hay Bellew. Now he's boxing for the European title. Incredible. He's still only, what, 22? I tell you, a great fight. Gamaliel fight against Sean Davis. It's the Battle of Brum for the WBC International Super Bantamweight title. Please watch this fight. It is going to be a great fight. And Frankie Gavin back as well. He could be fighting Garrido, a little lion.
We like the lion.
Yeah, he's good. He's
a
good fun.
good character.
And Josh Kelly returning as well.
Yeah.
And what I like about Josh Kelly and Adam Booth is Adam Booth wants the fast track. So I'm coming back with these opponents. He's like, no, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. So, you know, good to see him back on the bill. A couple of other really good fights on the undercard. And then, what, 3 weeks this Saturday, Brooke Spence. So, all go, mate, non-stop.
Chisora is fighting Hellenius.
Same night.
Will that be involved in the programme?
Maybe. It's difficult from an international TV feed point of view. And now we've got Groves Chudinov. I'm not so sure, but possibly is the answer.
Okay, that'd be great. You never know what's going to happen with
I know. It's been a bit quiet, Del Boy.
Yeah.
Is that fight still happening?
Yeah, it's still happening.
Is it? He's sort of normally
I think,
slinging things around right now. You know?
I think he's calm.
Low key.
He's
Probably
low
after I bought him that kettle. He's gone into hiding.
It's low key at the minute. Don's got him in a corner speaking pure sense. On that note, Eddie Hearn, thank you very much.
No
Appreciate
problem.
your time, mate. Catch you soon.